Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan. Today we are breaking down the New Orleans Saints 2024 NFL Draft. It was a great weekend. It was fun to watch all the picks. I think the Saints did a great job. Unfortunately, as you can tell here by who I root for on a regular basis. But before we get into the draft picks, be sure to subscribe to the Tracy Take and also like this video. Help us out with the algorithm. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the start of the NFL season, and we have a bunch of content coming out between now and then, and also 2 weekly prediction videos when the season starts. So be sure to like, subscribe, and also ring the bell to get notified. Ryan, let's pull us up here. Saints really like this pick overall. I like it because I don't like that the Falcons are going to have to go up against Taliese Fuaga twice a year. And so I think this is what we've been saying the entire offseason. Saints really needed to address the offensive line. They were just in a perfect spot just to sit there. Just like whoever they wanted to take. If Olu fell a little bit more, I bet they would take Olu. If J.C. Latham was still there, I could see them taking J.C. Latham. And so I think, again, Fuaga as well, I think he fits their needs perfectly. So I think he might actually be the best fit overall. He's more of that right tackle guy. But even to your point, though, I think you said this while we were watching or while we were live, he can even kick into guard as well if needed.
Yeah, and so for me, he can play that right guard spot. He's one of the best right tackles, if not the best right tackle, in my opinion, in this class. And like to me, this is the perfect pick for the Saints. They needed to solidify that offensive line, and like here you go. Like this is a great piece to help you do that. And I think, especially looking at some of the picks that they made later on, I think Kirk Cousins and I mean, you guys already know Spencer Rattler will really appreciate this pick. So I
Not Kirk Cousins, the best. You mean Derek Carr?
Or Derek Carr. Sorry.
Yeah.
Derek Carr, Spencer Rattler will really.
Kirk Cousins wishes the Falcons drafted Taliese Fuaga.
I know, yeah. But no, for me, he was the best run blocking tackle in this class. He needs a little bit of work in pass protection, but not anything that's like marking him as unfixable. So, all in all, I thought this was a pretty solid pick going forward. So let's move on to their second round pick, where they got some great value here. Kool-Aid McKinstry, I think, was in almost all of our first round mock drafts. He had the hairline fracture in his foot, I believe, that was discovered at the combine. And so he had to do, he missed a lot of the testing. But even then, you go watch him on tape, he's very athletic and very, very good in zone coverage, and will probably at one point in his career switch over to playing a safety, not because he's not athletic enough, but you just look at his prowess and his feel for zone coverage, and I think he screams safety transition to me.
Yeah, well, I think as well. I remember I saw the stat with Cooper Jean that there's a 3% chance that he makes it down to 40. And I feel like with Kool-Aid, it probably would have been about maybe a little bit more. But I mean, like, can't be more than 5 or 6%. So I think getting him here, and to your point, though, I think just a very versatile safety. And even too, from the reports I read of him at Alabama, he was the leader of that defense, of that secondary. Great communicator, making sure guys that are in the correct position. So I think he can develop into that role as he becomes more of a veteran as well within that Saints team. And so, but great pick here coming from Alabama. It's hard to go wrong, I think, with Alabama skill position players in general. So, but they didn't have a pick actually for the next 109 picks. They ended up trading up to go and get Kool-Aid. So we move on, though, to their day 3 picks, where they end up getting Spencer Rattler. I really like this pick. I think the fact that he fell, I think it was, what was it, 138 picks between quarterbacks, but I think was it.
It was Bo Nix at 12 to 150
at Spencer Rattler. And so I think this is just a great, like, low risk, high reward. I mean, you're getting Spencer Rattler here in the 5th round. I think he was clearly the next best quarterback of all the guys that were available. I think only a couple other quarterbacks were actually taken in the draft. But he can sit for a year or a couple years behind Derek Carr, kind of learn how to run. But he has the mold and the build of what these modern day quarterbacks are, which is that dual threat capabilities, can move outside the pocket and can run down the field. Derek Carr doesn't have that capabilities. I think the thing with Spencer Rattler, and Ryan, I want to hear your opinions on this, but I think it was just staying poised in the pocket and just a little decision making thing. But talent wise, on the field, he seemed just as good as the rest of them.
Yeah, and so for me, and with him, watching him on tape, he ran a very pro style offense, but the offensive line was not good enough to really block any of those schemes. And so he was constantly under pressure. But the fact, and this is a good thing and a bad thing, but the fact that he was constantly under pressure did not take away his want to push the ball down the field. And so like there were times he'd be like almost getting tackled by 2 or 3 guys, and he's throwing the ball 40 yards down the field into double coverage to make a big play. And so I think like I would rather coach guys to be less aggressive than have to coach guys to be more aggressive, because I think it's easier to like tone it back a little bit rather than it is to turn it up.
Yeah.
But uh, I, I really do think he's almost ready to kind of start at the NFL level. Like he has already run that pro style offense. He's coming from the SEC. He has the arm talent. He goes through his progressions well. He just doesn't always make the best decisions. And so I think part of getting him is he's just going to have to develop and learn and make mistakes sometimes. Like that's just going to be what it is. But he, to me, has the attributes to start at the NFL level.
Yeah. Well, and, I mean, coming out of high school too. I mean, we've known about him. It's interesting now with these quarterbacks and with NIL and with social media as well. You hear about these quarterbacks now. Like Jalen Hurts was another one. Like for 4 or 5 years before like we see him like on Sunday. So it's very interesting to kind of go and see these young men develop. Into these NFL quarterbacks. So I'm curious to see. I hope he doesn't develop too well as a Falcons fan. But I hope he has that success. Would love to see him play against the Falcons here a couple times a year, because I think he's fun to watch when watching this film. Next pick, though, is the guy that you really liked, Bub Means, receiver out of Pittsburgh. What did you like the most about Bub?
Yeah, so 6'1", 212, vertical threat. He wins down the field. I believe he ran like a 4.45 at that weight, which is really good. He is a little, I don't want to say awkward, but he's a good athlete. Just I feel like it only shows up at times. And Pitt also didn't have a great offense. And so for me, the biggest thing for him is going to be consistency, but he's good after the catch, good with the ball in his hands. And so I like this pick. He's a good developmental prospect. He doesn't run super advanced routes, but all in all, in terms of like tangibles and measurables, very, very, very solid pick here. And so kind of the same thing, I think, for the next pick, Jalen Ford, the linebacker from Texas, going to be really long. Needs to put on, I think, a little bit of weight to fill out his frame, but rangy linebacker there in the middle. And for him, I feel like he does have a little bit of a lower ceiling than a prospect like Bub Means, who needs like refinement and technique, but not athletically. I think Jalen Ford just isn't the most athletic guy that like at linebacker. But again, you're drafting him here at 175. He needs to be savvy and play with more anticipation to make up for that lack of athleticism.
Yeah, no, I can understand that, but that's kind of the undersized linebackers. We've seen a lot of them be successful, but it's I think getting him here is a good value as well. He's on a great team at Texas, and so wrapping up here, Christian Boyd and then Josiah Ezram as well, addressing the interior on both sides of the ball. Something not interior side of the trenches, just in general, but something Saints needed to address, and they did it again here. Also for especially on the offensive line side of the ball. So I like that they started with the tackle and ended with the tackle. So let's move on now to our grades. We graded against kind of all the other teams in the NFL draft. I went with an A-. I think that the Saints did a little bit of an above average job overall with the selections that they had. I think one of the reasons why it wasn't any higher for me is just because they didn't have a third or fourth round pick. It's so, but getting Taliese Fuaga, then getting Kool-Aid McKinstry, and then you got Spencer Rattler, great developmental quarterback, and I think low risk, gets a fifth rounder. I think Bub Means as well. I think all four of those guys can come. Well, Spencer Rattler won't come in immediately and help contribute, but long term though, those 4 picks alone for me, just getting those guys, I think all those guys are going to be great Saints players. I think over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and so the same reason is why I kind of gave them a B, which to me, so I had my average was like a B- to a B. And so like they're on the higher side of average, I guess. And they just didn't have a pick for so long. And so while they ended up with, I believe, what is that, 7 picks? And I don't know, it just didn't, I felt like it could have been better. And I like the players that they got. The players that they got definitely have some warts. But all in all, I felt like this draft was maybe slightly above average for the teams this year. So
yeah. In general, I mean, this class was so good; it was hard to have
Yeah.
a bad draft. And so I think for the Saints, I think they capitalize with their and they just kind of fell into good spots like that 14. Like you just knew there's a lot of good offensive linemen that are going to be there. Just take the best one. I think at 45, I think they were going to be best defensive player available. They didn't really give up much to move up one spot or a couple of spots to get Kool-Aid. And so those two picks alone, I think to me made this draft worthwhile for the Saints.
No, exactly. So let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. If you have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of the New Orleans Saints 2024 NFL Draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you have done differently? Know that we'll see you guys.